Hello, my Asian friends living in Asia or else any other part of the world right now. I am your Asian friend, living, residing, and thriving in South Asia. My Asian friend, as I already mentioned, talked about, discussed in depth this one particular ancient practice, which we all Asians do it, but we somehow believe that only our country, our Asian country does it, and that particular ancient practice, which can be a very big uniting factor for all of us Asians simply because we all do it and so many of us do it in such a similar way, which can unite us. And that practice is known as ancestor worship. As I already promised in my previous video where I discussed this practice in depth and how it can be a uniting factor for all of us, in that particular video itself, I promised that one by one, we will start exploring almost all of the Asian countries which are into this practice or they do this practice even in this day and age. And if not all, then we will explore most of the Asian countries which do this practice or maybe are culturally are into this practice. And in that regard, we have already covered Japan and India. If you guys are interested, you can check those 3 videos out before watching this one. But for this particular video, we will be exploring yet another Asian country. To be very specific, yet another South Asian country, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is yet another South Asian country which is into ancestor worship, and when Sri Lankans do it, they call their practice of ancestor worship as Devaya worship. Devaya worship is what Sri Lankans call their way of doing the ancestor worship or paying respect to their ancestors who have died and moved on to the afterlife or the next life, right? Depending on the region within which our Asian country resides in our continent Asia. My friend, I told you before and I'm telling you this time around that the motivation behind doing this similar practice or else this particular practice that we all Asians do it might differ. Motivation can be different, and because the motivation is different, our rituals can be different or maybe not as similar to each other. That is why we decided that from the lens of ancestor worship, we have to explore each and every Asian country, if not each, most of the Asian countries which actually perform this ancestor worship practice. So when it comes to Sri Lankans, their a way of paying the respect and reverence to the ancestors is known as Devaya worship, where if we were to bifurcate Devaya and worship is something which we all know it, Devaya is something which we have to explore, right? So Devaya would mean some deity, or else Devaya can also mean someone who was alive on this earth living a very perfectly normal life, but when they were blessed with this beautiful thing called life, they have done such great things and have gathered such great karma that when they died, they actually moved on to some other plane which is only reserved for anyone who is deity or god status. So that is why this practice of paying the respect and reverence to the ancestor in Sri Lanka is known as Devaya worship, because Sri Lankans believe that there are certain beings or entities who are always existing in a very high energy and very positive energy, and for those people to exist they have particular plane or else they reside only in that realm, right? And anyone who was alive in on this earth led a very beautiful life and accumulated so much good karma that they after death are qualified to enter that particular realm, which is reserved for only those people who are high in energy. By high I mean positive energy, and they have done such good karmas that they deserve that higher level plane and no one can enter that. So so this is the Sri Lankan belief that some of the ancestors who have led this beautiful life and they died and have moved on to the next life have achieved that Devaya status or else that Devaya realm. And if at all they are in that realm, of course, whosoever is in that realm, they are awarded or rewarded automatically from the laws of nature or the universe with the power to bless the living beings, especially someone from their own family who are still alive, right? This is what the Sri Lankan belief is, and because of which many of the Sri Lankans actually time and time pay respect and reverence to all those, not only the deities who are already the, you can say, different beings or else higher beings. Apart from those deities, The Sri Lankans also pay respect and reverence and believe that some of their ancestors who were such good people and have done such good karmas have also moved on to that Devaya plane post their death, and that is why they have achieved the Devaya, aka deity status, and they should be respected the same way a deity would be respected, because they are much closer to their family, because they hold the same DNA. Then when they were alive, they were part of the family. So the first person, we as living beings, if we were Sri Lankans, we are supposed to pay respect and reverence to those devayas or deities which have moved on to that devaya plane along with the already existing deities, right? So this is one belief behind Sri Lankans way of doing the ancestor worship. And I've came across another belief which can be very controversial for anyone who is not a Sri Lankan, or else who is not into any of the dharmic beliefs or philosophies, or else they are not aware about the religion or its practices of Hinduism and Buddhism. And that belief is that some of the ancestors, or else the people who have actually reached their death and they are supposed to move on to their afterlives, actually, depending on their karma, can get that can get into a realm, or else can acquire a body of another being which is known as yaksha. And if I were to translate what does yaksha mean in English, then it is simply known as demon worship. Yeah, that is something which can be very controversial for so many of the people, and especially someone who is from the monotheistic religion, because they have this belief that there is good and evil. So from that perspective, some of the people might get spooked out when I am telling you this, that some of the Sri Lankans also believe that when they are doing the ancestor worship, some of their ancestors have actually moved on to afterlife where they have become a yaksha. But the point here is the Sri Lankans do it not because they are satanic or else they are into demonic things. They do this because they believe that those beings are actually because they were from their own families or else their family members, even though they have got this afterlife or else afterlife body of a yaksha, but they have the capacity to protect their family members or their family members who are living right now from the real evil which is lurking around in this universe and who does not belong to their own families. So that is why, out of fear or else respect, fear of other evil spirits, or else for the respect of their own family member who maybe because of their XYZ karma have got the afterlife body of a yaksha, they pay respect and reverence to those ancestors. So these are the two lenses from which Sri Lankans perform this practice of ancestor worship, and they ask for guidance, they ask for help, because if we were to talk about the similarity, how exactly the Sri Lankan way of doing ancestor worship is similar to other Asians' way of doing ancestor worship, then of course, apart from this afterlife status or else afterlife body thingy, even Sri Lankans believe that anyone who has died and got their afterlife or moved on to the another realm, they have or else hold some power over their living family members, and they can make or break their situation. And that is why they should always be offered with something which might help them in their next life, or else they should be respected or feared or else helped, because they need help and they are dependent on their living family members to survive in their next realm. Or else if they are pissed off and they are not provided with what they need, then they can wreck your existing life. So from this particular lens, of course, Sri Lankans are quite similar to all of us Asians. But if we are to discuss this practice of Devaya worship in depth, then you have to wait for the another section and stay tuned. For Devaya worship in Sri Lanka, actually, right now, if we were to discuss, then in Sri Lanka, most of the Devaya worship rituals are dictated by Buddhism. But before Buddhism entered Sri Lanka, if you think only Buddhism brought this practice into Sri Lanka, no, my Asian friend, this practice of ancestor worship has always existed in Sri Lanka. It's just that if you are to discuss about this practice in today's day and age, then of course most of the rituals are transformed into Buddhist way of doing things. But this practice also used to exist simply because in the previous day and age, there are evidences with Sri Lankans where you can say ancestors, or else the people who used to live in that ancient era, they used to do this practice. And in that particular practice, out of respect and reverence, they used to paint the bodies or else the bones of their family member who have moved on to another life from red and yellow. That is something in the color red and yellow. That is something maybe might not be done in today's day and age, because Buddhism dictated in another way, but it is somewhat used to be done. In Sri Lankan's case, instead of setting up altars within their homes or else doing the worship within their ancestral homes, Sri Lankans visit the Devalaya. Would mean a temple, a place where those devas exist, or else their idols are put there, believing. And simply, let me break it to you, my Asian friend. If at all someone is an idolater, does not mean that they are worshipping or praying to that idol only, or else that idol which was made by their own hands. Actually, the idea behind doing the idol worship, be it through the lens of Buddhism or Hinduism, the idea is that the supreme god is so diverse, so powerful, that not only it can be formless, it can take a form, and it can manifest itself into whatever imagination you have. So some people imagine the all supreme god in a form of a goddess. Then for them, that god has the capacity to manifest itself in the form of goddess. So they manifest in the form of goddess, and whenever we are creating an idol of that goddess, then we are actually paying respect to that highest being who have created this universe to manifest themselves, or else they're part of energy, or else part of their existence, to come and reside in this ideal which is manifested in the form of a goddess. So that is the idea behind idol worship, and because of that, even Sri Lankans have their ideas behind having idols, and those idols are supposed to be kept properly with respect in temples known as devalayas. And that is why when it comes to Sri Lankans, when they are paying respect and reverence even to their Samutti Devayas, they visit their devalaya, and in their devalaya they have their own devalaya priest. That priest is responsible for not only taking care of that devalaya, but also to perform certain rituals in such a way that the respect and reverence, or else whatever material food, when it comes to material food meaning food, water, fruits, gifts, or else clothes, whatever any of the ancestors who have died and passed on to another realm or else afterlife might need it. So all these offerings of course are given to those Samutti Devayas by the family members, but those family members do not know how to perform those rituals properly, so that they reach to their ancestors in the next realm. So for that to happen, Sri Lankans have their own priest in their own ancestor Devalayas also, and that priest knows and is trained in the fact how they are supposed to perform the ritual of doing the respect and reverence, and provide that offerings to those deities which are our ancestors, right? And this is one thing. And another thing which Sri Lankans do, and how exactly they do their ancestor worship, is that out of these priests, because they are paying respect and reverence and they are trained into this, they sometimes perform certain arts, certain dances, certain mudras meaning forms, dances, or by wearing a wooden gear, which is actually believed to be the gear of a yaksha. And when they perform this ritual, or else they get into that energy of wearing that dress, wearing that mask and all, and they start connecting with the energy of that yaksha ancestor, then these priests become vessels for those ancestors, yaksha ancestors, to come into their bodies, and through these priest body as a medium, they can talk to their living family members, listen to their problems, and provide them the solutions, because they have the power to see even the future of their family members. And because of that, many a times, not only in Sri Lanka, this particular practice is actually similarly done in southern parts of India, where some of the priests have so much of energy as a vessel that they can actually connect to the deities of other realm, or else the ancestors who have become the deities in another realm, or else the certain ancestors who have become yaksha to reside and come in their bodies for some amount of time, listen to the problems of these of their own family members or else their entire village, and give them the solution simply because they can see the future. So this is yet another thing which is done by those priests. And if I were to discuss how exactly it is similar for all of us Asians and what are the differing factors when it comes to Sri Lankan way of doing ancestor worship, then I guess I will be discussing it in the next section. Coming on to the factors which can unite all of us Asians from our Asian country Sri Lanka when it comes to ancestor worship would be the common feeling or common tradition or belief behind doing the ancestor worship of Sri Lankans from the rest of the Asians is that even Sri Lankans believe that whosoever who was part of their family has died, have moved on to next life, and in that next life they have moved on to some other realm or some other afterlife, and from that afterlife they can make or break the situation of their living family members, and because of that they are supposed to be provided with respect and reverence and whatever resources they might need in their afterlife for their own comfortable survival in their afterlife. So this is one factor or one set of factors which actually unites not only as Asians but Sri Lanka with rest of the Asia. And second belief is that because ancestors were here and they chose to procreate to the point that we are here and we got this beautiful thing called life, they are supposed to be respected. We should give them reverence and respect, and whatever their need is in the afterlife, it becomes our duty to provide them with that, right? This is second belief, which is a common factor. And third belief would be that when it comes to getting the guidance, protection, seeing the future, or asking for help for our day-to-day needs or problems, then our ancestors are highly capable of providing us with that. So these three factors are certain factors which are similar to all of the other Asians. The differing thing which I figured out and found when I was exploring ancestor worship from the lens of Sri Lanka was that Sri Lankans believe that their ancestors post death move on to certain realm, and depending on their karma they might get different realms. Like they might merge into the realm of deities, which are higher positive beings, or else they might merge into the realm of yakshas, which are demons. But those demons are not negative or not bad demons, but rather they are the protectors of the lineage, and they are protectors of the entire family from the unknown evil. So this factor was literally very different for me. But whosoever is hanging on to the first part, I don't think anyone would have any issue. But when it comes to the second part of this belief, where Sri Lankans worshipping or asking for help from their ancestor who have become demon post death, is something which might give heebie-jeebies to anyone who is exploring this culture in Sri Lanka, or else this practice called ancestor worship from the lens of Sri Lanka, especially if at all they were from monotheistic religion, right? So this is one thing I guess can be controversial for people. But if at all you are from the religion of Hinduism, aka Sanatan Dharma, or else Buddhism, then maybe you can understand this second aspect of Sri Lankan way of doing the ancestor worship little more, because these things are actually practiced in many of the regions within Asia, especially South Asia or else Southeast Asia, simply because the dominance within the demographic of the religions are much higher. From the Buddhism perspective or else from the Hinduism perspective, we are not hell-bent on the fact that okay, there is one good and there is one bad and they are fighting and one has to win and only good has to survive. No, from the perspective of Buddhism and Hinduism, these are dharmic religions, and within their beliefs the idea is whatever good, bad, ugly, whatever it is which exists in this world, have actually come out of that one particular source. That one particular source which you and me might call God, some might call Bhagwan, some might call Ikonkar, some might call Allah, whatever it is. That one particular source which is actually a source for this entire universe. From that itself, everything came out, and everything will go back to or has to go back to that one particular source only. Be it negative, be it ugly, be it good, be it positive, doesn't matter, right? That particular source is so capable of manifesting itself not only in the form of formless but in the form of formed beings also. So because of that, if at all you are from these religions, of course you can understand the sentiments of Sri Lankans believing their ancestors becoming yaksha, aka demon, and coming back into the life, or else coming back from the afterlife to help Sri Lankans, maybe through other means, or maybe through means of a medium. In Sri Lankan's case, the priest, those yakshas can come into the bodies, or devayas, not only yakshas but devaya ancestors also, Sumuti devayas also can also come into the body of a medium, and through that medium, through the voice of that medium, they can listen, can talk to their own living family members, and through the ears of that medium they can listen to the problems of their family members and give them the solution, because simply they have the power to see the future, or else suggest the better path to solve the problem right now. So this is a one thing which actually makes Sri Lanka stand out. But as someone who is much closer to Hinduism, I can understand the sentiments behind it. But this is what is all about when it comes to ancestor worship being done in Sri Lanka. I really try to figure out that. Just like India, or else Japan, or South Korea, or China, of course these countries have, you can say, particular time period in a year where they believe that their ancestors come and visit their family homes, and then they do this ancestor worship. But for Sri Lankans, I could not find any of the particular time period within a year where they believe their ancestors come back in the form of through medium or whatever. I believe Sri Lankans believe that they can call their yaksha ancestors, or their devayas all year long. It's just that they have to summon those ancestors or yakshas to come and visit the medium's body, and through that medium's body they can have a conversation all year long as all the rituals to summon those ancestors are being done properly. So that's what I think. But if at all any of the Sri Lankans right now are listening to me, and you do have some time period where you dedicatedly do this practice in a year, and you do have any other name apart from the way of worship for this, please do enlighten me and let me know what it is, how it is done. Because when I was exploring and trying to understand this practice more, then most of the things which came out was that this practice is done, this is how it is known. And majorly right now, when it comes to doing the rituals, Buddhism's influence is much more higher, but Hinduism does exist. And within Sri Lanka, there, despite the fact that Buddhism is much more prevalent, still within the Sri Lankan Buddhism version, there are so many Hindu deities who have taken in, maybe by different name, but they too are also worshipped apart from Buddha and any of the teachings around Buddha, right? So this is what came up. But if at all any of the Sri Lankans want to correct me, I am happy to be corrected, because that's what I got to know, and I thought, why not Sri Lanka? We should also cover that. And if at all you are right, yeah, Asian friend, you were bang on, you covered it well, then thank you so much. And if you have anything else to share, or else any suggestion which other country I should pick up next, that is also welcome. And until I come back with another Asian country from this particular lens called ancestor worship, I guess I should take your leave. Bye.